Tacoma Public Schools acknowledges that we are on the traditional, ancestral, and historic lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Puyallup Tribe. This acknowledgement serves as a first step in honoring our nearest tribal neighbors and partners who have inhabited this region since time immemorial, and to whom we give thanks for allowing us passage to their lands. We shall intentionally create inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and socio-political realities. General Counsel Benro, will you please call the roll?
Certainly. President Keating?
Here.
Vice President Strozier?
Here.
Director Leon?
Here.
Director Bombright?
Here.
Director McElroy?
Here.
We have a quorum, and before we adopt the agenda, welcome so many people. Happy to see everybody. I know I've spoken with some folk individually. I just feel I want to reiterate that hoping that we'll be able to proceed through the board meeting without interruption, allow the agenda items that we've come to discuss to proceed. We wouldn't want to have to recess or ask folk to leave, hoping you all can be in this space with us for this board meeting. All right. I appreciate y'all. All right, adoption of the agenda.
I move adoption of the agenda. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Item number 6, notice of public hearings. Item 6.1, public hearing for impending sale of Madison Early Learning Center, 3101 South 43rd Street to Louis Rudolph Holmes.
The district has determined that the property, formerly known as Madison Early Learning Complex, 3101 South 43rd Street, is not needed for district purposes in the foreseeable future and will not be required for the district's long-range planning of capital facilities. The district is proposing to execute a purchase and sale agreement to Louis Randolph Holmes for the sale of the property at 3101 South 43rd Street. At this time, the district will hear public testimony related to the execution of a purchase and sale agreement with Louis Randolph Holmes for the sale of Madison Early Learning Center. We have 2 speakers who have asked to speak on the Madison sale for the public sale hearing, and we have 1 written comment that's been uploaded to the agenda. So speakers will have up to 2 minutes to speak on the issue of the Madison sale. And if folk are ready, our first speaker for the public hearing of the sale will be Mr. Kit Burns. Very good.
Good evening. My name is Kit Burns. I'm an architect. I've designed schools for 40 years. So I have a little bit of experience. I've lived in Tacoma for 30 years. And my advice and recommendation to the board is to withhold this sale, not move forward, and to keep it within the school district's purview, their ownership. Year after year, I've seen where school districts across the country have sold property, particularly in a city, and then they have to buy it back because the demographics change. Madison is very unique in a number of ways. One, in 2020, we passed a bond issue of $535 million, and part of that was to improve that school, the roof and the buildings. Additionally, Tacoma supports schools. We just passed a $650 million bond issue. I'm so proud as somebody who always watched bond issues as an architect. And so this is a commitment of the community. Additionally, keep in mind, that could be used as a park for the Madison area. Now, I don't know if the board has taken the time to walk down there. I just happened to do that recently in the last month and a half. They have no place to play. When I heard that this property was being sold, I thought of the Cat Stevens song from 1970, "Where Do the Children Play?" It's a good song. It's a good listen to that. But I think I'd like to ask the board to withhold passing this or moving forward on it and consider some of those things. The investment previously, I don't know what the amount is. I put a public document request in to find out how much was allotted in the $535 million bond issue. But I think it's important when you walk through that area there and you realize they have no place to play except the streets. And school district after school district has gone back and had to buy property because the demographics change. And they expect Tacoma to have more than 50,000 new inhabitants by 2050. So I think there's time to consider that and ask that you do that.
Thank you, Kit. Thank you.
I'll leave 2 bits of reading material for you.
You can leave that with General Counsel Benro. Thank you, Kit.
Thank you. All right. Our next verbal speaker for the Madison sale is Kathy Irwin.
Hi, my name is Kathy Irwin, and I'm a South Tacoma resident. Worked formerly in healthcare for many years before I retired. I live close to this whole area of the Tacoma Mall growth center, and it has had a significant increase in apartments that have been built in this area, apartment units, many of them with no parking on site. That's been the trend now, so people are having to park on streets. If there are any plans of developing this school site in the way of housing, that is a very concerning because of the size of the property and the fact that the school children, all the children will lose access to a park area that has been formally designated as a park area for that area of town with any planning that has been done by the city. So this is very significant not to do any kind of, to hold off on any kind of development of that area that could trend towards housing development, because honestly, if you add very many buildings on that lot, where will people park? Because a lot of this, people don't have any place to park in that area. It's already overcrowded. And to consider also the fact that this whole property area is only 1 mile from the Bridge Industrial Warehouse site. That will also be a high polluting area as well because of the vehicle traffic that will be generated. So this is another area where you don't want to be adding in too many more families or congesting the area because of the potential pollutants coming down the road, literally, for this area. So this is not a place to add more family type housing in right now. So I ask that you consider, at the very least, to maybe even see if this can be separated out into parcels to be sold and not the whole thing, but leave some part as a park area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that was the last verbal comment we had designated on the cards for the sale of the Madison property. So with that, that closes the opportunity for public hearing for the sale of the Madison Early Learning Center and agenda item 6.1.
Thank you, Malik.
Yes.
Item number 7, recognition of staff, students, and community.
6.2.
Oh, sorry. 6.2, written public. 6.2A, written public comment.
Yeah. Agenda item 6.2 is the public hearing for the 24-25
Sorry,
proposed
y'all.
budget. I've got it.
Yeah. I'm not brand new, but close. Sorry, thank you, Malik. Item 6.2, public hearing for the 2024-2025 proposed budget.
So the Board of Directors of the Tacoma School District will hold a public hearing regarding the 24-25 budget. Anyone may appear and be heard for or against the proposed 24-25 budget. Approval of the resolution to adopt the 24-25 budget is scheduled at the next regular board meeting, which should be on June 20th. And before the opportunity for public to be heard on this one, we've got a short budget presentation. Oh, very good.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening. It is my honor to be able to present you with the 17th budget that I have prepared for the school district this year. So the first, I don't have the clicker, I'm sorry. I think so. Click it for me. Here, I'll grab it.
We'll get through this together.
We are not stopped by challenges here. Okay, so the intention for this evening is both to inform the board and the public of the use of public resources and to give you a short overview of some of the interactive pieces that we have had and the alignment of the budget to the strategic plan before we get into some of the details and the meat of our presentation, which is like the numbers piece, which most people kind of gloss over on. And then talk to you a little bit about some of the timing aspects of what comes next. So in about 2012, we changed our budgeting process to a budgeting by priorities process. Prior to that process, we were doing just a rollover budget where we would take what we had in the prior year and we would roll it over and make some modifications to it. We recognized that that wasn't necessarily a way to align the resources that we had into what our strategic initiatives are. And it wasn't really meeting what the expectations of the board were at the time. And so we worked with the board to develop a budgeting by priorities process that outlined a 2-year budgeting cycle where we would align ourselves to the state legislature, with the idea being that in the beginning of the cycle, lots of changes happen at the legislative level. They're making more modifications. And so we would try to align ourselves with that by asking for budget submissions through a proposal process. We would ask departments in year 1 of the cycle to submit proposals to us telling us what they were going to do with their resources, how they plan to spend them, how they align to the strategic plan, what strategic initiatives they were working to support, and then we would use those to develop not just the first year's budget, but the second year's budget. And so we have maintained that process now all the way through since 2012. And so we're in year 2 of our current budget cycle. As part of that cycle, we also ask for interactive community feedback. There's a time for us to provide that in year 1 through a budget advisory committee, as well as budget hearings, any kind of public comment that can happen at any board meeting where we do a budget presentation. Emails have always worked as well, and our budget calculator, which is listed out on our budget website, which I believe we've done for 4 or 5 years now. In February of 2023, we actually developed a budget advisory committee, and we had a number of community members and union members and PTA members, staff members that participated in that budget advisory cycle. We get a learning sessions with them, 5 learning sessions to be exact, where we shared with them how budgets work, how we've developed our budget in Tacoma, what the legislative funding mechanisms look like to give them an understanding of what those pieces mean, and then had them meet with program managers in detail where they could ask any question they wanted about the types of things that we were building our budget around. Those individuals were then asked to prepare considerations and recommendations to the board of directors, which we presented to you in May of last year. It's a robust and lengthy cycle, and it's perfect to align that to our year 1 because we are making so many modifications and changes in the way that we operate when proposals are submitted. And then it helps the cabinet members make a determination around which proposals we need to select in order to move forward with our funding. So as I said, the 2-year cycle, in the 23-24 budget, we did a full cycle. 24-25 will be a review year. In a review year, we're just taking what we had already had in proposals and making modifications to meet the funding expectations that we have. However, in this year, we have been in a 23-24 year, we've had funding challenges. We made some mid-year reductions throughout the year, and we've brought forward to you since January some communications around our current financial situation. So those implications in the current year have rolled into the development of the 24-25 budget. So we've been doing a little more right sizing than we would probably do in a typical year 2 cycle. But at the same time, we're not making broad sweeping changes to the types of programs that we're offering. We're just making modifications to individualized aspects within those programs that are already largely developed. And I would just add a point to that we have done that within the guidance that you have provided in these guiding principles and the criteria that you have adopted for us. This was adopted also as part of the year 1 budget cycle, and we utilized it through last year as well as all of this year. And these principles are really just a set of guidelines for the superintendent and his cabinet to identify what things are more or less likely I know it's boring.
He's so cute.
I know, sorry. The guiding principles are intended to guide us with expectations of what we should or should not make adjustments to. Our district is made up of several different types of funds. These are checkbooks that the district is allowed to utilize resources out of. We have very strict accounting guidelines for how dollars can be spent. There's thousands and thousands of compliance expectations upon the district. The general fund is our operating budget. That's where we would do most of our day-to-day operations. Anything that we're doing with student-centered activities and field trips and athletics, any kind of classroom teachers, any kind of staff that's used to support anyone in the district, all happens through our general fund. Our debt service fund is intended for principal and interest payments on our bonds. That's the only thing that's allowed to be utilized through that resource. Associated Student Body Fund is actually a fund that's set up for students. They raise resources, they make the determination about how to spend those. So those really aren't district funds, but we have to account for them and report them off to the board. Our Transportation Vehicle Fund is used to buy yellow buses or make major repairs to yellow buses, and that's the only thing we're allowed to use those resources for. Trust funds are exactly what they sound like. They are held in trust. They are not district funds to be spent on anything other than what the trust fund is set up for. An example of that might be a scholarship program at a high school. Those funds come to the district in a trust and with expectations associated with them. We can only spend them on those activities. And then capital and technology levy funds, those are funded out of our most recent capital levy that was approved in 2022 and our 2020 bond that the gentleman spoke of. So we use those to build buildings, to make major repairs to buildings, and to buy computer and technology equipment within the expectations of that, whatever was authorized when we voted on it. So the preliminary budget that we'll be presenting to you, it may still change slightly. We have to submit it off to OSPI, or the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, and they provide feedback and represent any errors that come through the report, and so that's why we call it preliminary. We're presenting to you today what we intend to support that budget moving forward. And so with the financing, other financing sources and revenues, it's $577,888,444. And expenditures are calculated at $572,408,000, and did I say 1,000 twice? $572,408,012. And then the recovery of fund balance. So there's a difference between our revenues and our expenditures. I've told you before that we need to submit a balanced budget to you, and that is accurate. But in order to increase our budget, in order to increase our fund balance, which is below the 5% reserve requirement that you have set for us, we have to have our revenues and our expenditures be off. The difference between those two will go to target our increase in fund balance. That increase is not guaranteed. It's a plan at this point. But realistically, if I look at what the expectations are for a 5% reserve, we don't have the resources to be able to get us all the way to a 5% reserve. We don't have the resources to continue on expending the way that we have been expending. I'll go into a little bit of depth on some of the revenues and expenditures as I go through a couple more slides, but essentially this plan rebuilds our fund balance from a 3.5% reserve requirement to the 4%. We will not make it to a 5% in this coming year. Carryover and program implications sometimes play into our fund balance. Fund balance for the public here is our savings account. Those are resources that we keep for emergencies, for specific items that we're required to have on hand, extraordinary events, and also to help if there's a cash flow issue so that we're not having to borrow money in order to pay off any kind of payrolls or salary items. So as far as our revenues are concerned for the preliminary budget, 72% will be in state funding. That's a little higher than what we've had in past years, but that's partially because we've expanded our early learning program with a transitional kindergarten program. We will be increasing the number of preschool slots that we have. That is a basic education type funded activity, and so it comes through state resources. It's fully funded. It lives within the means of the resources that we'll be having coming in, so all the expenditures associated with it will be covered. It's a win-win in our book, and it aligns to our strategic initiatives around early learning. But it does increase the number of state dollars that we'll be receiving. Our levy will represent around around 13.5% of our resources moving forward. That's just voter-approved levy that has been allocated. Our federal dollars will be 8.5% of our total budget, and then the remainder will be other revenues and local non-tax. And typically, if we charge any kind of fees, if there are any donations, things that we might receive from other school districts for educating some of their students, those are the types of things that fit into that bucket. Interest, income would fit into that bucket. Our revenues grew by about 4.5% from last year. Expenditures, on the other hand, at $572.5 million roughly, will represent our classified salaries at 17.2%, so that's $98 million. 49% of our budget will be in certificated salaries, and benefits are about 20% of our salaries. So that's 86% of our budget that goes into salaries and benefits. Typical budget would be 85%. 86 starts putting us into the realm of, are we able to cover all of the expenses that come along with managing a school district? We have lots of curriculum needs. You got to buy toilet paper, you got to buy food, you've got to buy insurance, you have to buy utilities. And so the more we spend on salaries and benefits, the less we're able to buy some of those other accoutrements that come along with the expectations of running a school district. Expenditures grew by 3%, and that was a forced growth. We actually, if we look at just our salaries and benefits grew by 6%. That's with the reductions that we already made. So our revenues only grew by 4.5%, but the salaries that we covered in this budget grew by 6%, which means then we had to make reductions in other areas in order just to keep the staff that we had planned on the books as we move forward. As we continue to progress through budgeting over the next several years, this will continue to be a problem. It's largely driven by market-based salary requirements and also by legislative action as the implicit price deflator or the cost of living adjustment that the legislature defines increases, then we will have to continue to make room for those expenses either through reductions in salaries and benefits or reductions in other areas. But we're running out of room in order to be able to do the latter. This is a slide that we're required to present this year, just material supplies and operating costs. I need to let you know that we are within the compliance expectations, and that is that based on the number of students that we have, the legislature gives us a specific allocation, roughly around $39 million to cover the material supplies and operating costs of the district. We're actually spending or targeting to spend $42.6 million, and so we are over compliance by $3.7 million in those areas, and I'm required to tell you that. Just going back to our strategic alignment of the budget, as we've defined this over the last several years, I think what's most notable, as I mentioned, in the early learning aspect, you have for a little bit of growth here in early learning that's related to the transitional kindergarten program, and you'll see that operations has reduced, as I had indicated to you. In the other funds, we'll be presenting to you, the debt service fund is around $74.5 million. ASB is around $5.2 million. Transportation vehicle fund at $1.9 million. Capital projects fund around $167.7 million. We're also required to present a 4-year budget. We are mystified by some of the expectations from our legislature, and this is one of them because we don't know what the funding is going to do other than whatever the legislature decides to do. That's the primary driver of our resources, and so what we do is we use the Office of Public Instruction's multi-year calculator tool and identify what our revenues are likely to be based on what they have indicated to us, and then we force balance the expenditures because our expectation is that we're going to live within whatever the means are of the revenues. We don't have an ability to go out and generate revenues, at least not in a meaningful way beyond grants that usually come with their own expenditure expectations or match requirements. And so we will just present this to you as, here's an example of what a 4-year budget will look like. We're required to present this.
Can I ask a question about that
Mhm.
in reference to the legislature? So I know that for several years, there's been conversations about the STARS, the transportation funding model. So as we present a 4-year budget, and if the legislature does do what they have indicated they are going to do in terms of fixing that acknowledged broken funding formula, how will that, for the public,
Yeah, I would say that really the only meaningful data here is going to be the first year. The first year gives us an expectation of what we're putting in our current year budget. Beyond that, it's a guess. It's a wild guess. And so the reality is that as the legislature makes changes, we will modify whatever budget year that occurs in, what those changes are, and we will adhere to whatever the expectations and needs are of those individual years of legislative action. And so this is a starting point and a target. It's more to make sure that people are aware that we do have to think forward as far as budgeting goes. And it doesn't have any relevance. We're not required to meet or even report back on what we've reported here.
So for clarity, we don't know what 25, 26 is going to be. And that's the importance of aligning it to a 2-year budget. And so we will be in a place where we have to wait till the legislators make decisions next year in order to determine what resources we have. And we've presented to you in the past the gap between what is provided and what our expenditures are. Even in our TK program, when we say it's funded, there's still a gap in how many employees we have, what the state provides for those employees, and the salaries for our employees. And that's the reality of it. So when we present this to you, it's very important for us all to remember this is based off of what we know today. Reductions, enhancements, there is no way to tell what that looks like in 25, 26, let alone 27, 28.
So some important dates to keep in mind. June 7th through 19th, we still have time for people to participate in our budgeting process. Our budget calculator is listed online. I'll go to a slide here in a second that gives people access to that. But the drafts will be available for comment, feedback, and then our formal adoption will occur on June 20th. That's our anticipated date. And today is, of course, the formal public hearing once I conclude my presentation.
Rosalind?
Yes.
By June 20th, will OSPI have had an opportunity to?
Yes, we will have an F-195 that you will be, so when we do prepare the June 20th, that's probably the big difference. Yeah, we'll have an F-195, which is our formal budget document that's available and has been through the full review process.
And anyone can see our previous F-195s online. You can click into this scan to the access. You can read all 290 plus pages of what that looks like in there. So we want folks to see that, and you can see where we've spent in the past, in previous years, and that opportunity as well. It gives specific codes.
Yeah, there's also some annotated versions for the current year so that you don't have to dig into those deeper, more horrible presentations of what's required to be presented for the state budget. But the budget calculator is available through that website. That is a online tool where the public can go in and get a little more get a little deeper into what our budget looks like, make modifications. They can actually submit it to us. All the commentary comes back to us. We did have 1,500 people viewing that budget calculator. Only 5 people actually submitted modifications and changes and comments though. So a lot of traffic going to it, but not a lot of commentary and interaction from it. Would love to hear what people's feedback and thoughts are on our budget. So, and I'll just also note the budget calculator that is out there currently is on our 23-24 data, but you can provide that feedback of anything that you want to make sure that we know. And that concludes my presentation.
Or there's I just want to thank the team. There's a small and mighty finance team. We took hits all the way through the district, all the way throughout the year. Medina, Kristen Bell, Jody, I can go down the list. There are not many. And then team HR, we have to balance. Our greatest asset is our resources, our staff all across the board. And so we have to balance that. And so team HR has to look at that in accordance with the proper timelines that we've all agreed to. And so I just want to give a special shout out. This is not easy. Last time I shared with you that we are not alone in this challenge. There are unfortunately, all across the state, we're facing this challenge. So big special thank you for all your efforts, and
Thank
we'll
you.
keep on adjusting and making the best we can with what we've got right now.
Yeah, you coming?
Ready?
Go ahead.
Want to go first? Well, thank you, Rosalind.
Thank you.
Well, no, don't have to go away. I'm just saying thank you.
I thought you were releasing me.
No, thank you for the presentation. I just want to make some comments on some of the points that really struck me, both historically as well as current in the situation and how it's evolved over my time on the board, which is, I'm in my 5th year, so lots gone on. Of course, got appointed, and then 2 months later was COVID. So it's not been a normal cycle since I've been on, but it has been uniquely different each year. So it's been challenging. But I want to say a couple things. One is things that you said that were, I think, important for the public to recognize, that we have a 2-year budget cycle, and that's just the 2nd year of that 2-year budget cycle. So the first year is the time last year was when we came up with new programs and looked at revising the existing programs and what we were going to be focused on for the 2 years, including this year as the 2nd year. And just like the legislature, when they have the first year, it's just hectic. It's a longer period of time, and they do a lot more policy work and fiscal work. And then the 2nd year, the short session, is just tweaking and trying to keep within, depending on where the economy's gone and all of that. Same for us, right? This year was not to be a year to do much.
Correct.
And yet we had to do a lot, because what happened was we were on a trajectory to not meet our budget. And so we started early. We looked at this, took the fiscal responsibility, started early, actually started last year, actually, to sort of try and mitigate some of the costs we were incurring with the end of the ESSER money, as well as a reduction, continued reduction in student enrollment, which is where our money comes from, or a bulk of it. And so I think that's really important to recognize, that this year has been really, we've had to do more than normally we would do, but this is not a year for change usually. So.
Thank you. And I would add to that, I have 2 things to add to that. One, you hit on both talking points that I forgot to include. Enrollment and ESSER are 2 big changes that we always have to be considerate of. ESSER was a federal stabilization dollars that are no longer available to the district. They expire at the end of this year. And so we will no longer have access to those federal resources. And then something else that I would think would probably be very helpful for the public is to understand that when your expenses exceed your revenues, just like in your home budget, you have to find the ability to buy things elsewhere. So that would be like a credit card or a loan. In school districts, that would be the fund balance. And when the fund balance is depleted, you go into what's called binding conditions, which is essentially bankruptcy for school districts. And when that does happen, and that has happened to a number of school districts, there will be 5 that I know of right now in this state that are on binding conditions for the coming year. You start to have the Office of Public Instruction come in and start to help you renegotiate contracts or to evaluate your expenses, and that just speaks to very difficult times for everyone involved. So
thank you for that point, because that was going to be my next piece. Because for the first year, when I was vice president, and then 2 years as president, I was really part of a lot of these conversations, and I know that President Keating and Vice President Strozier are deep into it now. And I just want to say that there is a pattern of responsibility, and I think looking ahead and trying to be planful so that we don't, that our staff knows if and when they, if their jobs are solid and all those things, that we really tried to make sure that it's as least disruptive as possible and keep as much funding flowing into the classroom, which was also, if you looked at the guiding principles, it was really important to this board that we really focus on the kids and the learning environments, and we've tried to honor that with this budget. I also think the bit about the right sizing right now is difficult. It's challenging. After COVID, we lost a lot of students and therefore a lot of money. And so I think it's difficult, and but it's our responsibility to right size. So thank you for the hard work to do that. But back to the fund balance. Now I know that you said that we'll get to 4% this year, which is better than 3.5, but not where we need to be, which is 5%. But I also support that this is a transitional year, and next year will be the first of a 2-year budget cycle, and we'll have more opportunity to think more about how we can do that. And I want to recognize that the fund balance is extremely important, just like any business or any your personal family savings account, that you want to make sure, because what happens with that fund balance, if something happened to the district, we want to make sure we can pay our staff out for a couple of months or whatever the 5% would cover, to make sure that everybody gets what they need. And and it also affects our bond rating and other things. So just really want to make sure folks know that as a board, by supporting this, we're really recognizing that we're not at the 5% we need to be, but that we're moving in that direction, and we want to keep the money in the schools with the kids. So, and we're supporting the kids now instead of saving it for kids in the future. So I think it's a responsible thing to do. The other piece about your presentation that I thought was so telling is that 86% of our budget pays salaries and benefits. We are investing in the people that are working with our kids. And so I just really want to make sure folks are aware of that. And we're also trying to be creative. We're applying for grants. We're trying to get other ways that we can invest in some of the special programs. And we're working with partner organizations to provide some of the services that we can't afford. So I just want to say recognizing it's challenging, difficult financial times, and that, as you said, Superintendent, many other almost all the other districts are suffering as well, and some are in bankruptcy, as you would say. And I just want to say that I'm actually pretty proud that Tacoma is not closing schools. We're not firing staff. We're not. It is an opportunity to focus on what we are trying to save, because we've got really creative and innovative programs that we should be proud of. So I want to say that I really enjoyed your presentation. I thought it was, I just wanted to point out those things that came to mind.
Thank you. Director McElrath.
Hi, Ms. Medina. Question. So I did hear your plea to have more people utilize the budget calculator. I know last year I did a lot of promoting of it, but this year I really didn't. How would one find it? And then also, how will your team utilize the data from what people, the constituency, students are putting into that?
Thank you. There's a tiny URL there that's listed, so people can access it through that, or if you have a phone, or if you have access to this presentation online, it's available to you. You can also just go to our website, on the district's website, under the business and finance area, under budget. You'll find all of these resources and many, many more. And you can peruse for hours. We've got thousands of documents out there, it feels like. And so we do welcome that information to come back to us. Without the submissions coming to us, we don't really have any understanding of what people's thoughts are as they're reviewing the budget calculator. But for those submissions, we can put together a synopsis.
Yep.
So we'll be happy to do that and put it into a Friday report for the board. We review them and look at them, and if there's anything of significance sometimes people just say cool or thanks. So we can be sure to share those, and then of course we review them and communicate with the cabinet if there's any relevant information.
That's awesome. I just feel like, people are getting involved, which I'm excited about. That's how I got into the school board. I wanted to know what was going on, didn't understand what was going on specifically with the budget, and it was taking me off. And so I didn't know that there was a way for me to utilize my voice in other ways, because there's a lot of people who watch our meetings online who aren't able to come in because of the time, right? So I want to make sure that they're understanding that there's a place for them to have input on the budget if they couldn't make it to the budget hearing. So that's why I'm like, tell them where to find it, comms, not bothering you, but put it on our website, put it on Facebook, so that people can really access that before the time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Leon or Vice President Sturger? Thank you. I just want to echo in terms of, I know that we've had some extraordinarily difficult conversations for months, and none of these decisions are easy because we know they impact people. And regardless of the perception, the priority has been to protect people and our staff and keep them employed, because the impacts of having to RIF are far greater. And so knowing like so many of our colleagues in other districts and in Pierce County and across the state who are having to lay off staff, I feel a sense of relief that that isn't an impact that we are having to put on our staff that do extremely meaningful work and impact the lives of our students and our community. And I just want to also add that I have lost count of the hours of conversations and analyzing and reanalyzing and questioning and assuring, like, is this the way? Are there other ways? What can we do? And I realize that also is not something that the public gets to see. We have many of those conversations here that, in board business meetings, in study sessions. I mean, I feel like we have talked about our budget at almost every single meeting this entire school year. And we have tried to do our very best to inform the public of what we were facing, what was coming, and the strategies that were being implemented along the way. And I also, to Director McElroy's point, there are a lot of people that don't have the capacity, time, or ability to watch our meetings. And so it's very difficult to get information and also feel like there was a way to contribute to the decisions that were being made. So I just want to echo the things that have already been shared, and thank you again for your presentation.
Madam President, there's a technicality that I just want to put a pin in, and this is most of the time when we hear about layoffs across the board in the field of public education, we talk, and many of the headlines, it's around our certificated employees. And I want, for full transparency, we have laid off people this year. We've laid off administrators, we've laid off support staff. And you'll remember we did that as early as we could because we had to mitigate, as well as to give people as much time as possible to find new jobs, new supports. And we have given you updates of sometimes we've been able to bring them back into new roles. And so in the context of where we are around deadlines and RIFs, I would not want anyone to imply that we haven't been there as well in there. So I just needed to say that, and so that if this is the first time you're hearing this conversation, and we've been down that road throughout the whole year.
Thank you.
I think Superintendent, your point is that, we have been, if the people, we focused on the administrators versus the classroom teachers was in a part, at first.
I don't want to allude that I had a point. I just didn't, meaning that anything other than a recognition, as President Keating mentioned, that we're not doing layoffs. Right now, we are not doing those in regards to our certificated staff. And so as we're all learning together, I wanted to make sure that that was not lost. And so I didn't have a point other than just to recognize, and I didn't want anyone to say, well, President Keating, that's not true. I understood your intent, and so it was just a moment of clarity.
So I appreciate that correction. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Rob. Now moving on to item 6.
We have-
Just wrap up the hearing real quick.
All right, 6.2.a.
Yeah, so we have received no written public comment for the public hearing section of the proposed budget, though we have one verbal comment that was submitted in the subject line that requested to be heard related to the budget, and that comment is from Jason Struna. I should say we may have other remarks, like budget-like remarks, that'll come in the general public comment section, so they'll still have a chance if that's
Thank you.
what they wanted.
Thank you. I'm Jason Struna.
Do we have a timer for?
We just want to make sure
I'll be
you.
brief.
Oh, no, but if you just give Tracy just a moment to make sure that you have. Thank you so much for waiting.
I'm here to urge the board to reject the superintendent's budget and direct the superintendent's office to restore resources to student-facing services. You have a fiduciary duty to protect this district and represent the community. Demonstrate your commitment to the community by protecting our interests against the current staffing choices being made by the superintendent's office. You are our elected representatives, not the superintendent's. As the budget stands, it's difficult to see how it reflects the strategic goals, guiding principles regarding academic excellence and health and safety. You can do better. Revise your models, divert some of the $59 million for administration, which is roughly 15% of the academic budget, to behavioral support and guidance counseling. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that concludes the comment period for the public hearing for the 24-25 budget.
Thank you, Malik. All right, item number 7, recognition of staff, students, and community. 7.1, state holidays and civic observances.
Yes, we have one civic observance in the month of June and one state holiday. The Washington State Legislature declared that the month of June of each year shall be known as Pride Month, and it's designated as a time for Washingtonians to celebrate the contributions to our state by LGBTQ+ people in the arts, sciences, commerce, and education. During Pride Month, the state encourages public entities and private entities, including educational institutions, to designate time for appropriate activities in commemoration of the lives, history, achievements, and contributions of LGBTQ+ people. We also have, like I said, one state holiday in the month of June, and that is Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a holiday that celebrates the emancipation of those who have been enslaved in the United States. It's a time to celebrate the harms of slavery, to recognize the harms of slavery, and to celebrate its official end on June 19th, 1865. So because Juneteenth is a state holiday, that Wednesday, June 19th, there will be no school for TPS students, and school buildings and district offices will be closed to the public. Those are the two that we have for June.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make a quick comment about Juneteenth and talk about why it's important to me, but it's my hope that I'm not educating anybody in this room about what Juneteenth is, because that's not my job. What I would encourage you to do is, if you don't know what Juneteenth is, to go ahead and hit the internet, hit your local library, and try to figure out what exactly it is we're celebrating. It's not just another day off. It carries some importance. So Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom, resilience, and an enduring spirit of Black folks. Serves as a reminder of the struggles faced as well as the progress made, inspiring us to continue to fight. What fight is that? It's the fight that's going to lead us towards building a more inclusive society for those to come, because there are going to be babies to come. So we need to make sure this place is set up and rocking for those who look like me. So for some of y'all who don't know, like, the Emancipation Proclamation came out, yay, you know what I'm saying? Slavery's over for some. It wasn't about 2 years till the last folks who were enslaved heard about this. So think about that, and also in relation to how Black folks are treated today. I'm just gonna put that out on a pedestal and leave it there for you to take it however you'd like it. But Juneteenth, June 19th, there are tons of events across the city that are happening. I don't know if Director McElroy has that in her board report, but it's posted, so participate, learn a little bit, and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President.
It's in my board report. He knows.
All right.
Yeah,
No,
It's
but did
done.
you have anything else you wanted to add about Juneteenth?
in my board report.
Okay, ma'am. All right. I wanted to add on, given that it is part of my responsibility to help educate myself and others about Juneteenth particularly, as I was reflecting on it earlier today, the American History Museum in DC has incredible resources and information. And I think the thing that is extremely important to me to rectify with and understand is that there were 250,000 enslaved people in the state of Texas who the state of Texas refused to tell them that the Emancipation Proclamation had passed intentionally. And it wasn't until the federal government came in to say to free them. I think that the other way that I know that I've learned about Juneteenth is that it marks our country's second Independence Day. And I think that for white folks like myself, it is not something that I grew up knowing about. It's not something I learned about until I was an adult. It wasn't taught when I was growing up and in school. And I find it to be extremely important that we educate ourselves to help young people and others to know what the actual true history is of this country, to be able to rectify it and move forward. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, I wanted to just acknowledge Pride Month. And I've found myself as someone who is a part of the LGBTQ community, feeling less celebratory this Pride than I have in many Prides in the past. Pride started as a riot. Stonewall was a riot against police brutality, specifically to trans and non-binary Black and brown people in New York City. And the Southern Poverty Law Center, if those are so inclined, has some remarkable history about just the history of Pride itself. And I think that there are a lot of reflections of surges of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric and violence and attempts to eradicate and erase the existence of LGBTQ people in history, in classrooms, in books, in libraries, in anti-discrimination protections. We have that here in our own state. We have that happening on school boards in our own county, our neighbors. And I think that it's really important, to the point that Vice President Strozier made about there are more people coming and we have to continue to fight, not just for ourselves, but those that are coming after us. Pride just feels a little more somber to me, and I don't think I'm alone in that sense. The violent rhetoric has increased. It is here in our community. It happens between our students. It happens in our parks. It doesn't matter who a person is. The rhetoric is here, and we have to work to address it, disrupt it, and eradicate it as best we can.
President King, I was gonna let y'all sit with that. I just feel that I wanna say thank you to both you and Vice President Strozier for speaking your truth about communities that you are a part of and also communities that you represent. I think that by saying what you both have said tonight, a lot of people are unaware of the amount of hate mail that we get. And every time we defend our students or we defend our own identities, the hate grows. I think that it takes a lot of courage to speak out about issues that matter to you personally, but also issues that matter to our students, our faculty, and their families. And I think that Tacoma is a very brave place to have leadership like the both of you. I just want to acknowledge that today.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, moving on to item 8, Superintendent's Report, 8.1, 2024 graduation updates.
Mark, can you help me right there? Thank you so much. Our communications team, starting off with tomorrow with our community-based transition program, we start, and I guess I would extend we started off a couple weeks ago with our Native American celebration, and this is the time of celebrations, right? There are a number of folks celebrating, and we have thousands of young youth with their families and friends across the district that will be enjoying graduation ceremonies next week and starting tomorrow with our CBT, which is our community-based transition program. Our communications team interviewed 12 graduates from across the district, and what you see here is a sampling. Oh, there you go, sorry. And it's on the front page of the website of 12 different graduates, and it tells their stories. And it's a small sampling of many of our districts. Each student interview was asked to reflect on their high school experience and talk about their next steps after graduation. And you see 12 very different stories. 12 very different stories. In this small group alone, There are aspiring teachers, chefs, nurses, performing artists, welders, and so much more. The students' stories are a great representation of the diverse pathways and opportunities available for TPS students. I encourage you to check out the students interviewing by scanning the QR code or going to our website. I want to thank all of our TPS staff, and you'll see that in their stories and who led them to the pathways. Some students describe them at a very young age, what that pathway was and how they connected. All the information about our graduations is online. If you're interested in learning more, they're all live streamed. And then a special request for our students. This is a time of celebration, and I really hope, and I think I've got some of them here, that they're safe. Each year, tragedy happens this time of the year. I'm asking, I'm begging. I've had too many experiences where we lose someone, unfortunately, that we don't need to lose. So for all of our students, celebrate safely, team up, stay together, have fun, you've earned it, and please make sure that you keep on coming back. So that's my report tonight.
Thank you. Comment? Comment? Item 8.2, Human Resources Update.
So tonight we have Director Stephen Dietrich here to speak with you. You got a little taste of Stephen last meeting. He was in the back of the room and we're trying to give you an update of where we are during this difficult time and how we're trying to support each other as we move forward. You've requested that, and one of our early pieces is try to make sure that we're able to take care of as many people as possible. And so Stephen's here to give you a kind of an update of where we are today.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Greetings, members of the board. I'm Stephen Dietrich, Director of HR Operations. And as part of my role, I partner with our Director of Budget, our 4 school directors, our building administrators, and the TEA leadership as well to carry forward the staffing process each fall and spring season. Tonight, I'll be providing you an update specific to spring staffing, but specific to the certificated staff and how they're impacted. I'll start and I'll end on this slide. The following is an overview of key dates this spring related to certificated staffing process. As we continue the staffing process, I want to bring your attention to 2 key dates on the slide. First is June 7th, which is the date that our displaced certificated staff members have to consider whether or not they want to continue forward with TPS or not after receiving their placement for / their assignment for the 24-25 school year. So if they choose to continue on, no action required out of our displaced staff members. However, if they decide that it's not right for them and we can't partner in a way to change their minds along the way to see if we could consider a new assignment if needed, or if possible, then we will work with them to release them from their 24-25 school year contract. The second date is June 30th, which is driven by the CBA for TEA, which is the district's last opportunity to identify any additional displacements. If we do identify any additional displacements, per the CBA, we'll notify both verbally, but we're also required to notify in writing prior to end of day on June 30th. I'd also like to take this opportunity to revisit these key points on the slide that were shared at the previous school board meeting by Assistant Superintendent of HR, Renee Trueblood. And it speaks to what does it mean to be displaced. And there are key points that I'd like to stress today. First, the displacement is the transfer of a staff member to another position and or school due to a change in the number of required staff needed for a specific building or program. Displacements are normal and take place each school year. You'll later see a slide again that represents the numbers of displaced staff each year for the past 5 years. In the spring, as a result of student enrollment changes, requirements of the collective bargaining agreement, and or student or program needs that fluctuate each year. Staff that have been displaced retain a position, include pay and benefits with Tacoma, but just not in their current position that they occupy in the current school year. We follow Section 87 of the TEA Collective Bargaining Agreement closely. We do not deviate from it. Details the requirements of how we identify and support displaced staff along the way. And then lastly, I just want to stress that displacement is not the same as a reduction in force. Our staff that are displaced continue with their employment with TPS. I spoke of this slide just a minute ago. As all of this, you'll notice the 5 years covered. The blue represents district-driven displaced staff notifications, where the orange represents staff that have volunteered to self-displace for one reason or another, basically to find and get a new assignment separate from the building or program they currently are part of. Of the 65 certificated displacements, 3 of the staff members were undisplaced due to resignations or retirements and were returned back to their previous building from the previous staffing season. As I noted earlier, the remaining 62 certificated displacements have a new assignment determined and have received their final placement notification from Human Resources. Please also note, again, the bar, each bar for each year and the orange highlighted number for volunteer self-displacements. I'd also like to provide you with some information on how we collect and consider the preferences of displaced certificated staff members as we move through our spring staffing process. In support of the co-educator, displaced staff members were afforded the opportunity to rank order their preferences on open positions for which they are qualified. As a result, those that were placed were not required to interview and were introduced to their new location administrators. Moving on, I'd also like to provide you with some additional information regarding how these displaced staff members were placed into new assignments. 18 of the certificated displaced staff will be staying in their current building, but will be taking on a new role. For example, going from a lab specialist teacher to possibly a classroom teacher role. 47 of the certificated displaced staff will be changing buildings. However, 17 of these 47 certificated displaced staff members will be changing buildings, have volunteered to self-displace. Again, all 65 certificated displaced staff members have now been placed in new assignments for the 24-25 school year. And what I would like to highlight on this slide is that 75% of the displaced staff members received either their first or second choice for a new assignment. Finally, at this time, ending on the slide that we began with, I'd also like to invite you to take this opportunity to ask any questions you may have about this process or any specifics along the way.
Thank you, Stephen. Are there any?
You were quite thorough.
Thank you.
Did you? Yeah, Director Leon.
So as we've talked about a few times already today and for many months now, this has been a difficult process. We've heard how the budget has been analyzed and the least effect to the classroom, and that being staff, has been made. It is something that's been not just analyzed here, but we've reviewed lots of documents. The board has, and had lots of conversations with the cabinet and other folks and done visits to sites. So I've reviewed a lot of information, and so have my colleagues. And they're not easy decisions, but we feel like these decisions that have been made are in the best interest of our students and our staff. And some of this, I want to make a few of these comments in Spanish also. So, muchas de estas decisiones, los presupuestos han bajado bastante para las condiciones que tenemos por menos estudiantes en el sistema acá. Y tengo residentes que me han preguntado en español y creo que ellos escuchan también que no fue fácil. Hemos revisado muchos documentos para entender cómo vamos a dar los servicios a los estudiantes y tener menos colegas, menos profesores y gente que trabajan para nosotros que se quedan acá con nosotros. Son decisiones difíciles, pero yo estoy con mucha confidencia que tenemos buen efecto para nuestros estudiantes para seguir adelante. So I just repeated what I said.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to say thank you to Director Leon for also translating that.
I just, when we get into these spaces, sometimes we use the term furthest from the classroom in there, and that's important. But I never want us to minimize the impact of all of the educators play a life in our kids and their supports. And it was shared with me in one of our conversations with one of the community members, the term, this idea of forced choice, right? We're in a forced choice when you only have so many resources. And so if someone has been displaced or if someone has been laid off, I don't want to miss this opportunity to say that they were important as well. We're in a horrific time. And as we go through this, and I think you can see from Stephen's presentation, Stephen spends a lot of time trying to make sure that it's the best situation under this forced choice. I'm down in Stephen's office. He would say way too much in this space, saying, what about this opportunity? What about this opportunity? So forgive me in a little bit of a grace, but I just, as we go through this, we recognize that people are being impacted on all different levels. And we're going to keep on working. We're going to keep on working in this space. And so we have more days, we have more time, and we're going to keep on working. And those employees that have already been placed, as Stephen said, they've all been. Some of them have already started those introductions. Some of them have rekindled old relationships. And some folks are still feeling like that's not the best for me. And I get that. And we'll keep on working. We'll keep on working. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 9, staff report to the board, and there is none. That brings us to item 10, members of the public wishing to address the board. Public comment guidelines. School board members encourage public participation. Your civil input is appreciated. Board members will not respond to your comments during the meeting. The superintendent or a designee will follow up with you after the meeting if action is needed. Instead of speaking at a meeting, you may also send an email to the board at board@tacoma.k12.wa.us. Please contact the board office in advance of the meeting for disability accommodations. Under Board Policy 1430, public comment, the board president may terminate an individual's comment when the allotted time has passed and may interrupt a speaker to require the same standard of civility that the board imposes on itself. Examples of uncivil comments include comments that are libelous or slanderous under a legal standard, are an unwarranted invasion of privacy, are obscene or indecent pursuant to the Federal Communications Act or any rule or regulation of the Federal Communications Commission, violate school district policy or procedure related to harassment, intimidation, bullying, or discrimination, incite an unlawful act on school premises or violate a lawful school regulation, or create a material and substantial disruption of the orderly operation of the board meeting. The board as a whole has the final decision in determining the appropriateness of all such rulings and can maintain order by removing those who are disruptive. However, the board recognizes the distinction between uncivil discourse, which it will not tolerate, and comments about the board, district, and/or staff that are negative yet still civil in nature. The board will exercise its authority to maintain order in a content-neutral manner. General Counsel Benroe, would you go over both options, please?
Yes. We have no written public comment for this evening that was submitted before the agenda was published. And this evening we have 16 verbal comments that we have, independent from the ones we did for the hearings. So at your discretion, we could do 3 minutes or we could do 2 minutes.
2 minutes, please.
Okay. So our first verbal public comment this evening is Paul Clower, followed by Emily Golan.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to address you. I just wanted to actually say a positive comment about the interactions that I've had, that I have on a regular basis with Forrest Drake, your Labor Relations Director, and Steve Graves, who's doing the work of 2 individuals now that someone else got laid off, a supervisor got laid off. They've treated our members fairly, just concluded bargaining a contract in this tough economic environment. And I really want to acknowledge those 2 individuals, Forrest and Steve, and I appreciate their integrity and their decency in the way they treat our members. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you please restate your name for the
Yes,
record?
Paul Clore. I'm a representative of the 90,000 member Western States Council. Our council runs from Alaska all the way down to Mexico, where we got the 12 states on the West Coast, and 90,000 of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Emily Golan, followed by Alexis Green.
Good evening. My name is Emily Golan. I am an orchestra teacher here in South Tacoma at Baker Middle School and Mount Tahoma High School. One of my favorite parts of my job is that I get to see students starting in 5th grade when they don't know what orchestra means, and continuing all the way into high school when they graduate as fine musicians and fine young people. And I love that I get to foster relationships that whole time with them and be a constant in their lives during a time when there's a lot of things changing from 5th grade to 12th grade. I was under the impression that my position had been cut. I was informed that I was displaced, and I recently learned that my position has not at all been cut, but the district has decided that they are unable to compensate me fairly for the work that I do at 2 different locations as an itinerant teacher. And so they have displaced me to an elementary school where I will no longer be teaching orchestra, and they are planning to replace me at each building with a .4 and a .6 position. And I would like the board to consider either looking at the time constraints and being creative with the minutes so that I can continue to do my job as I have been doing, or to consider fairly compensating me for the time that I put in every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alexis Green, followed by Jaden Sparks.
Okay, my name's Alexis Green. I go to Stadium and I'm a Stadium senior. I met my career counselor when I was a sophomore in high school. I met Ms. Jenderson in my junior year of high school. They were an important piece of our lives and we need to keep them and maintain them. If we don't have career counselors, we can't thrive in this economy, community, or be our best selves. Some people are not able to get the help they need because of their family dynamics, neglection, poverty, mental instability, and more. This ends up causing teens to feel like they will not be anything if they do not have these career counselors. It is the most important thing that we must support our future. These career counselors help us with. To know that we can look forward to something positive with so much negativity in the world is the one thing we all grip onto. With these budget cuts and cutting important positions will lead to a downfall in graduation rates, success rates, future lives, and a quantity more of reasons. These career counselors are the reason our generation of high school students are thriving and able to pay for college. Being able to get support, high school students are thriving and being able to become more stable. It's also somewhere to sit to feel safe. This isn't just support for college, it's support for families and more. This isn't just a career room, this is a family and people need them. If you take career counselors away, not only are you stealing away from the next year's seniors and everyone else, but you're stealing away from our future. You guys are making a decision that shouldn't be a thought in any one of your guys' heads. Parents will struggle, kids will struggle, TPS is being secretive about so much. Everyone has let it be, and now this is taking away from who we all, like everybody that needs it in high school. This is wrong, and everyone will fight against it. The last few years of my high school experience, I have gone through mental health issues, school issues, deciding what college I should go to. I was supported the most in my career counselor Some people will have a chance at becoming something in their lifetime. We need someone and people who will help us become successful when I come back.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jaden Sparks, followed by Angel Roman.
Hello. My name is Jaden Sparks. I'm a former Mount Tahoma student, and I'm here to talk about your decision to remove the career counselor position. Your decision to remove the position of career counselors is, simply put, a mistake, and makes already present hurdles students have to overcome all the more harder without the guidance given by career counselors. Career counselors show immense care and concern for our futures that no other staff members show. To be a career counselor means to be incredibly selfless and understanding. Having access to a staff member like the career counselor can relieve a lot of the stress that comes with graduation. I, for one, did not know a single thing about the college application process, but Ms. Phillips was there for me every step of the way. She worked hand in hand with the College Success Foundation I was active in to ensure I knew what I was doing and what my life after graduation was going to be like. My career counselor provided me with insight and confidence to transition smoothly into life after graduation. Without career counselors, how will we know what colleges best fit us, or if college is even right for us? Who will help with our high school and beyond graduation requirement? I hope what I'm saying does not fall on deaf ears, and that action is taken to revert this decision. There's still time to fix this.
Our next speaker is Angel Roman, followed by Rubika Madhavan.
It's Angel.
Sorry.
Name's Angel.
Good afternoon, board. Like my auntie said, it's Angel Roman. I'm also a graduate from Mount Tahoma and a current student at the University of Puget Sound. I wanted to come today and give my personal story to highlight the importance of our career counselors in our schools. As a first-generation student coming from immigrant parents, we knew little to none about the steps to pursue higher education. Not everyone has a mentor to guide them through opportunities outside of high school, but my career counselor, Ms. Phillips, is the reason I'm in a private university today. She was there every step of the way for me, helping with my college applications, FAFSA, scholarships, and internships. I've never had someone care so much about my success outside of school, pushing me to apply to every scholarship that I was eligible for. And with her help, I'm fortunate enough to not have paid nothing so far for college. This would have never been the case if Ms. Phillips was not there. It's hard to imagine a school without her. She was one of the hardest working people in Mount Tahoma, and for her position to get eliminated deeply saddens me. With that being said, I really hope you guys reconsider this action, because this will strip away a lot of already limited opportunities for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think here we have Rupika Madhavan, and followed by Penny Kramer after you.
Hi, Rupika Madhavan, teacher at Foss High School, speaking on behalf of me and another counselor at Foss. At the beginning of last year, Foss had 2.5 counselors and a 0.5 career guidance specialist. This year, we only have 2 counselors. The ASCA national model for school counseling recommends a student to school counselor ratio of 250 to 1, and at Foss, we're about 300 to 1. And given our school, that's particularly not great. Due to the amount of work that is required for a senior counselor this year to focus on just the high school and beyond plan, she's being pulled from all of these other essential things that school counselors do, such as checking if students are passing classes, helping them access vital resources, providing short-term counseling to students who need it, running small groups, implementing a school-wide school counseling program. Furthermore, because we only have 2 counselors at Foss, our sophomores end up getting the short end of the stick because the priority goes to seniors graduating. And right now, sophomores aren't getting anywhere near the amount of attention that they deserve. This is not only good for sophomores right now, but this will inevitably mean that when their senior year comes around, their senior year counselor will have to do even more work. School counselors are not trained to fill out the FAFSA or the WAFSA. Career specialists have a very specific set of skills that they've honed over the years. and long-standing partnerships with college admissions office, apprenticeship programs, and more that allow them to directly connect students to various career pathways. Having a full-time career counselor at FOSS would enable our 2 counselors to give students the vital supports that they need to succeed beyond high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've got Penny Kramer here, followed by Claudia Krumpa.
Good evening. I'm Penny Kramer, President of Tacoma Education Association, and I would like to begin by extending my congratulations to our graduates, excuse me, who are finishing their career with TPS and hopefully moving on to bigger and better things. Educators are always told to have data-driven instruction, so I have some. TPS has a 91.1% graduation rate and 99% VANI, which is verification of acceptance at next institution. We are graduating Tacoma, but are we educating Tacoma? Let's talk standards. Don't get me wrong, educators don't like standardized testing, but it does give us trackable data. In ELA, only 43% of students meet standards. That's 4th lowest in districts of comparable size. Math is 27%, that's 3rd lowest. Science is 34%, that's 2nd lowest. Post-high school measures aren't great either. 1 year post-graduation, over 54% of our graduates are not enrolled in continuing education. 8 years post-graduation, 63% of students have no degree. This is not due to a lack of educator expertise. We're doing the best we can with limited resources, overloaded classes, and essential supports being removed from schools. These statistics are a result of TPS leadership's mismanagement. Yes, there are legislative funding issues, and there's also layers of crisis. So what do we need from the school board? We have a budget issue, but we also have a management issue. And it's your job, according to WASDA standards, to support a process for internal and external evaluation of district operations, and provide written performance expectations for the superintendent and communicate those to the community. There's talk about right-sizing the budget. How about right-sizing the administration and the administrator salaries? How about right-sizing our workload?
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Claudia Krumpa, followed by Tina Taylor.
Hello, my name is Claudia Krumpach, thank you. And as a former Tacoma Public Schools community partner and current college access advisor at the Clover Park School District, it's incredibly important for me to not only advocate for the rights and welfare of my colleagues across districts and those whose work has touched and impacted the lives of thousands of students for the last several years and some even decades, but it's also important to always, always put the needs of the students first and foremost. The youth are our future, and we must continuously do everything we can to support them. Especially amidst the worsening economic crisis, we as advocates must provide whatever critical tools possible to support students' access to a quality and dignified life. Career guidance specialists do exactly just that. To dispel this role that has proven to drastically impact each individual student's career trajectories in significant ways is a disservice to our youth and community, especially our low-income and first-generation youth, of which I identify as and work closely with in my role as an educator. Public education is constantly underfunded and thus understaffed, just as we have seen in the budget presentation. It's appalling to me that the U.S. government approved a $90 billion budget for the Department of Education this year, yet over $884 billion in military defense spending. We need to fight for the funding and prioritization of education and our community's basic rights together. I can't accept that this is just how it is, because to accept that is to fail our students. Listen to the students and alumni, hear their stories, their testimonies, and let that move you to continue fighting for our youth, their advocates, and for the future of our society. And let's please be creative, more creative in our advocacy for this. Change is possible, and we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tina Taylor, followed by Gianna White.
Hi, I'm Tina Taylor. I am a teacher at Bryant Montessori. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am here tonight to review some standards. So the Common Core standards that we all work under, there are 21 to 28 standards for each grade level K through 8. For the Washington State School Board Directors Association, you have 5 standards that you are supposed to be following. Today, I'd like to talk about Standard 5, and this is for our school board members, but also for the community. It is engage local community and represent their values and expectations by holding the schools, the expectations they hold for their schools by A, collaborating with families, community members, responding to diverse interests and needs, and mobilizing community resources. So in the sections underneath this, particularly is called out, does the school board follow an established process for referring citizens with questions, concerns, comments, or feedback to the appropriate personnel and following it up appropriately? Something to think about.
We do.
B, ensuring school board and district transparency through a process that is open and accountable. Listed among 6 points here is number 2, does the board make itself directly accessible to the public? Something to think about. C, ensuring district information and decisions are communicated community-wide. And I really appreciate Director Leon for adding in another language. That's great. But does this board ensure that proactive communication systems are in place to disseminate information and address issues in schools and community? That's two-way communication. And D, soliciting input from staff and a wide spectrum of the community so that a diverse range of interests and perspectives on issues is heard. And in particular, does the board seek meaningful input from staff on changes needed to strengthen instructional programs? So give that some thought. Evaluate yourselves. We're asked to do that all the time as educators.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gianna White, followed by Siona Wells.
Sorry. Hi. First and foremost, my name is Gianna White, and I'm a current junior at Lincoln High School. I am also a City Senate member and junior class president. Now, although I have not completely had the same experience as my teammate, I've experienced and witnessed the impact Jamila Jones has made on our current juniors and seniors. While it's important for us to take care of ourselves, we have also been taught to look out for others, and today those students are at Lincoln. Nope. For other students at all Tacoma Comprehensive High Schools. It saddens me that the idea of taking away a big support in our school has even been considered. Unlike my teammate, I will not get to be able to experience the help like college apps and scholarships. And I say this because when I do ask for help with scholarships that I can currently apply for, the staff at my school send me to the one person that they know that will help me the most, Jamila Jones. So I ask you to think about all the kids within the next couple of years to keep Jones at Lincoln doing what he does best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Siona Wells, followed by Zev Cook.
Good evening. I thank you all for gathering here today and allowing me to speak on the topic of removing career counselors from our schools. My name is Siona Wells, and I'm the senior class president at Lincoln High School, as well as an all-city Senate member. As a current senior, I've directly experienced the positive impacts of career counselors in our high schools. Jamila Jones has aided me in finding the right fit for my next steps in life, and I now will be going to a 4-year college for free and continuing to play the sport that I love. Many students at Lincoln High School do not have the guidance at home that they need, and Jamila Jones has been able to be a positive male figure in these kids' lives. He has had such an impact that within an hour-long assembly, we obtained over 350 signatures from Lincoln students petitioning to keep him in his position next year. Without his position, the rising seniors like my teammate that just spoke in the crowd and the many other across the district will not get to experience the same level of support that was offered to me this year. I ask that you all reconsider your decision and bring back career counselors so that students can walk into their next phases of life confidently and with a plan. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Zev Cook, followed by Jasmine Walton.
Hi, I'm Zev. I'm a grocery worker with USCW 367 on the south side, and co-chair of the Tacoma Democratic Socialists of America. Yeah, I'm here today to support my union siblings and TEA and our students. To be honest, I don't really see, why this needs to be an issue in terms of school funding and why the community needs to be on opposite sides of the school board on this issue. We live in a state where there's tons of money. We have some of the largest corporations in the country here in Tacoma, or here in the SeaTac area and across the state. We're one of the richest states, not just in the U.S. but in the country. And instead of funding our schools, our state legislature is instead passing tax cuts to hand over money to companies like Boeing, who are prosecuting a genocide in Palestine. Yeah, I think that, in terms of what I would like to see from our, political representatives on the school board is, end the consensus culture and the, secretive decision-making and join with our community. We would love to work with you on, going out and fighting for fair funding from the legislature and from our city council. We have, a city where our city manager makes more money than the governor. The city spent hundreds of thousands of dollars paying out settlements to killer cops in our city. The school board can be a powerful voice on those issues if you come together with the community. And that's what I would like to see moving forward.
Thank you.
All right, we have Jasmine Walton here, followed by Beverly Bowen Bennett.
My name is Jasmine Walton, and I'm a school counselor. There's a false narrative I've heard as a response to displacements and position eliminations. I can speak to this firsthand from being in a building that lost 2 full-time positions within the last 2 years and no significant decrease in enrollment. The work of the employees that have been displaced and or eliminated does not disappear. It's put on building employees that already have their own duties to fulfill. I've heard there's a hope of partnering more with community agencies and organizations for support. Community partnership and collaboration is great and welcomed, but it isn't a replacement for a full-time position of an individual that has experience, dedicated contractual time, knowledge, and expertise. The response presented isn't equivalent or equitable to what's being removed. Most people are familiar with the SMART goal acronym. It's a common practice that's used for goal setting for individuals and leadership within organizations. A goal should be S, specific, M, measurable, A, achievable or attainable, R, relevant and realistic, and T, time-bound. The responses I've read and heard from decision makers don't use the entire SMART goal process. The important information for the implementation of the proposed solutions is missing. We aren't being set up for success in a smart way, and that's not hyperbole. If there's no commitment to reconsidering the decisions that have been made for career counselors and support staff, I request that the board and district leadership work with students, educators, staff, and stakeholders to create transparent communications that explain to families what services and supports their students will no longer receive and ways their students' current and post-secondary educational opportunities will be further limited. We all hear and understand the message that the state's funding model is antiquated and out of our current control. What we also need to hear and read is what that means to our students' education and the impact on all. Budget or no budget, there's no consensus without community.
Our next speaker is Beverly Bowen Bennett, followed by Jennifer Blaze.
I sure didn't know what I was getting into when I came to this meeting. I've got to get on the side of all the people who've spoken about career counseling. I grew up in the 50s. I'm 81 years old. And we didn't have career counseling. I'm a very intelligent woman. I did not know it when I graduated from high school. I had no encouragement to go on to any further education. I ended up through many steps of first an LPN, then an RN, and then a BSN, of being a very good nurse. I would like to say that if I had been encouraged in high school, I might have become a nurse in my 20s rather than in my 50s when I finally got my BSN. Well, that's one thing. Another thing is the 19th. We got a long way to go, but boy, have we come a long way since I was a kid. At least we're talking on your issue also. And I want to say thank you. Now for the reason I'm here. I live in the Tacoma Mall neighborhood. We were deemed high density just before I bought my little house 23 years ago. My community is absorbing apartment complexes probably on a rate of 2 or 3 starts a month. Many of them not being built in a way that utilizes the footprint of the property in an appropriate way. I understand that the Madison site is going to be sold and it's going to go to a developer. Whoops.
President Keating, may I request 30 more seconds for the speaker? I don't know how this all works, but she didn't, she started with some other stuff. Or can she come back and have 30 seconds later? Can she sign back up?
I'm gonna leave that with General Counsel Ben.
I don't know how this
She
works.
can always come back. She can always.
come back?
She can always.
You can come back. There we go.
You can tell me.
There we go.
Beverly Bowitt.
I don't know what that means.
Let's
Yeah.
finish these and then I can chat with you.
There are more other
Yeah.
people?
Oh, yeah, we have
and then I
four.
get
Beverly, actually, go ahead and you can finish.
Oh,
Maybe
look
another-
at President Keegan. All right.
Now, where was I? Okay, I know it's being sold, and it's going to be sold to a developer. Unfortunately, I went to their website, and they build the kind of units that does not use up all the footprint of the property. And the reason that is so essential is that I cannot stand the fact that here we are deeming to be high density and then not use all the land. So I would like to be able to either have the school district write it into their sales agreement that they have to be prudent about how they use the property, or they allow me to come and talk to them on a regular basis and help them to make a design that would enhance my neighborhood. We are losing such a good resource. I volunteer, as you know, I volunteer currently at the preschool there and play with the kids. That's the best part of my week. So thank you very much, and if there's any way that I could have some sort of input on the fact that we hang on to the playground that we got that was just built, and that they do something about using all of the property, I would appreciate it. Thank you for your.
All right, we're almost there, friends. We have 3 more. So our next speaker is Jennifer Blaze, followed by Gunnar Ray. Hello.
Hi, Jennifer Blaze. I'm a mom of 4 boys, Bernie and Baker. I asked several students to tell me how they've got lots of extra kids too. How Ms. Proudman makes them feel. These are their responses. Safe, cared for, heard, seen, supported, smart, capable, understood, calm, proud, hopeful, and excited to learn. And I asked them what they think of Ms. Proudman. She's kind, helpful, protective, safe to talk to, helps them solve their problems, happy, and a good person. There's a shortage of teachers in America right now, and this is why. We're not valuing the good people in our education. We're just not. And you guys, you're not gonna hear anything you haven't heard from every Bernie parent that's come up here and talked. We talked about the new buildings being more important than our kids. We talked about, I mean, everything under the sun. I have it all right here. But you guys aren't really even listening. My son, Jimmy, he spoke at one of these meetings and asked you to keep his vice principal. Because that, we were told as parents that position was being dissolved. We find out we're losing our principal, and instead of moving her up, you guys hired somebody with less experience, who was probably cheaper. Seems to me like there's a couple of HR staff we fired instead. But we're getting the people who work with our kids. A woman who learned another language to better support them. It's unbelievable. And I sit up here, I sit up back there and listen to you guys up there talk about how proud you are of what we're doing. It's just sad. We begged. Our kids have spoken to you. These kids, I'm so proud of you guys. You guys are awesome. I wish I could say the same.
All right, our next speaker is Gunnar Ray, followed by Stevie and Betty.
Hi, I'm Gunnar Ray, a senior at Stadium, and you can probably guess my exact reason for being in this building today. I believe that the career guidance specialist is crucial, and taking the position will only hinder the preparation of students. I find it ridiculous that after having 25 people come to this building with 36 hours of notice that you failed to see the severity of this issue. So how about this? Last Tuesday, approximately 40 of my peers were awarded a scholarship for the upcoming year. A massive congrats to them all. But what you failed to realize is that this did not happen organically. These things take time, and more specifically, it was the result of time and rigorous effort from Ms. Gunderson announcing, explaining, and preparing all these students for sustainable success in the future. As a graduating student, I feel objectified by your choice to remove this position. Not only does every career guidance specialist serve as the backbone for the students' futures, but it gives them the stable haven for kids to be motivated and stay motivated. There's a huge difference between graduating and graduating well. You preach, as it says right behind you, every student, every day. But is that all you see me as? Am I a student or am I a person? Going along with this, your new grading system grossly skews the curve to minimize failure in your classes. This serves as a quick out to force your students to graduate without addressing their needs. With this and the career guidance specialist removal, this shows me that I'm neither a student nor a person to you. I'm a statistic. No matter how poorly I am prepared, if I graduate, it's a win for you. This mindset cannot be transferred to my fellow peers. Please, save the career guidance specialist.
I think we have Stevie and Betty coming up here, and those will be our last speakers.
Hello, my name is Betty Pham. I am a graduating senior for the Silas High School. I come from a low income immigrant family. I personally didn't think about any of my high school plans until this year, and it was really stressful going to this year and everyone telling me and asking me, where am I gonna go? What am I gonna do next year? It was really stressful. Without Miss Becca, my career counselor, I would not have been prepared to apply for colleges and FAFSA. FAFSA and scholarships and applications are so stressful, and I would have not known how to navigate them at all without her. My graduating class of Silas High School is one of the highest number of graduating students, and I'm 100% sure without people like Miss Becca, that would have not been the case. I also, speaking with my friends and peers, I have recommended Miss Becca to so many of my junior friends, them asking me about how did you navigate applications and scholarships. I immediately said, Miss Becca, go to her, she will help you with everything that you need. And knowing that now there's not gonna be someone like that for my friends next year is really concerning. I also, this year, someone was talking about how they struggled with mental health, and coming from an immigrant family who doesn't have an understanding of how things work here, it was really hard for me navigating, well, what are these different societal standards from the two cultures that I come from? I did not know what to do, and without Miss Becca, I wouldn't have been able to make a plan for my future, which was really stressful to think about.
Go ahead. You can finish.
I may just ask for 30 seconds of your time to speak. Hi, everybody. My name is Stevie Lazama. I'm a junior at Silas High School. And this will obviously affect my senior year for the career counselors. As concerning as this all is, you can see the amount of students that have come and left. Just to give some student perspective, if you guys haven't heard from the 16 members that have spoken about it already, I am really trying to prepare for my college. Just want to give a little insight. I recently got awarded my first college scholarship. Thank you to Miss Becca, Mr. P, and Miss Jonderson. I was awarded the only Washington student out of the whole nation to receive this scholarship. I would not have had it without them. Coming to this meeting, I was told by my career counselors this week to come, and I prioritized this over anything. I had just came from the Palmer Scholarship interview 30 minutes before I showed up here, on my way to a second scholarship. This would not have happened without my career counselors. This means so much to you guys. And if I may recite back to your guys' words, you guys spoke multiple times throughout the meeting. You guys are doing this for the best for your students. You guys are in support for your students each and every day. And the decisions that you make are for your students. Taking the people that support us the most and get us through high school to better for college. It's not the right decision. And taking the career counselors away is taking the opportunities from your students that you support and that you are at best interest for. I know from a student like me, we're only just two speaking up for Silas High School today, but I plan to reach for the stars, and they're a part of the rocket to help me get there. So, thank you.
That was the last public comment for this evening.
Thank you. All right.
I move to adopt the consent agenda. Is that it?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Moving on to item number 12, policy matters. Item 12.1, first reading of policy 6216, reimbursement for goods and services warrants.
The council, on behalf of the Director for Financial Services, recommends that the Board of Directors review the draft of new policy 6216 and provide feedback before a second reading. Just real briefly, this is a new policy based on a WASDA essential classification. It's about lost or unclaimed warrants and the process that we would use to issue replacement warrants if they're lost or if they need to be issued to the estate of one of our stakeholders.
Sorry, that was very distracting. All right, whether is
no need for any board action
Right,
until
okay.
the next,
No, that's
until
fine.
the second reading.
I was just going to say, are there any questions and comments?
No.
No. All right. Thank you very much. Item number 12.2, first reading of new policy 6217, electronic fund transfer payments.
The General Counsel, on behalf of the Director of Financial Services, recommends that the Board of Directors review the draft of new policy 6217 and provide feedback before a second reading. Like the first policy, this is a new policy. It's a new WASDA essential classification, and this one relates to rules about us issuing electronic funds transfer. It has policy language about a review by the district's auditing officer in order to issue electronic funds, and it states that the district will use the same review process for electronic funds transfer as we do if there was to be a paper check issued to somebody.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. All right. Thank you, Malik. Item number 13, financial report. The district's monthly financial report will be presented at the June 20th, 2024 business meeting. Monthly financial statements can be found on the district website at www.tacomaschools.org/departments/business and finance. Item 14, curriculum and instruction. 14.1, approval of the interlocal agreement number TSD 24076 between Eastern Washington University and Tacoma Public Schools from June 6, 2024, July 30th, 2025.
The superintendent, on behalf of the director of schools, recommends the board of directors approve interlocal agreement TSD-24-076 between Eastern Washington University and the Tacoma Public Schools for college and the high school from June 6, 2024 through July 30th, 2025.
I move to adopt 14.1.
Second.
It's been moved, seconded, and third. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Item 15, business matters. 15.1, approval of contract number TSD 23-033, amendment number 2 between Bailey and Bailey Counseling and Consultation and Tacoma Public Schools from September 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2027.
Before I read the recommendation, this is one of 4 this evening, and my comments are not designed to detract or minimize from the testimonies that were shared this evening. But these 4 contracts represent a celebration for our students. It's competitive, grant-funded opportunities that provided 35 clinicians to be in our schools this year to support mental health for our students. And as of the end of April, these clinicians were able to support over 2,500 students. And that nearly represents 10% of our students. So this grant funding that the recommendation is coming to you tonight is to continue to support mental health for our students inside of our schools through 2027. And that is a celebration. So the Deputy Superintendent, on behalf of the Director of Whole Child, recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD 23033, amendment number 2, between Bailey and Bailey Counseling and Consultation and Tacoma Public Schools in the amount of $204,000 from September 1, 2024 to December 31st, 2027. Funding source, U.S. Department of Education grant for school-based mental health.
Move item 15.1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes. Item 15.2, approval of contracts TSD-23-088, amendment number 1 between Greater Lakes Mental Health and Tacoma Public Schools from September 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2027.
The Deputy Superintendent, on behalf of the Director of Whole Child, recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD 23088, amendment number 1, between Greater Lakes Mental Health and Tacoma Public Schools in the amount of $408,000 from September 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2027. Funding source, U.S. Department of Education grant for school-based mental health.
I move item 15.2.
One second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. Item 15.3, approval of contract number TSD-23-089, amendment number 1 between Consejo Counseling and Referral and Tacoma Public Schools from September 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2027.
The Deputy Superintendent, on behalf of the Director of Whole Child, recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD 23089, amendment number 1, between Consejos Counseling and Referral and Tacoma Public Schools in the amount of $561,000 from September 1, 2024 to December 31, 2027. Funding source, U.S. Department of Education grant for school-based mental health.
I move to adopt item 15.4.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments?
A comment. Yeah, Consejo has been working with the community for many years. People of all languages, but they specialize a lot in the Latinx community. So, este grupo ya ha ayudado mucho a la comunidad latina y hablan bastante español, pero también ayudan bastante gente de otros idiomas.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes. Item 15.5, approval of amendment to the contractual memorandum of understanding between between Tacoma School District and the City of Tacoma from April 2024 through December 2025.
Did we skip
Oh, did I?
15-4.
Sorry.
We did 4.
Yep.
That's what I just moved.
Sorry.
You're doing great.
I just moved 4.
You what?
We didn't skip 15.4, did we?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. It's Catholic
It's
Community
not going to hurt us
Services.
to redo it.
Same thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're gonna bicker and say.
No, it's fine, because
Got
we
it.
just did Consejo.
Consejo.
Yep, so,
apologize.
I'm going to move back to item 15.4, approval of contract number TSD-23-090, amendment number 1 between Catholic Community Services and Tacoma Public Schools from September 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2027.
The Deputy Superintendent, on behalf of the Director of Whole Child, recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD 2390, amendment number 1 between Catholic Community Services and Tacoma Public Schools in the amount of $612,000 from September 1, 2024 to December 31, 2027. Funding source, U.S. Department of Education grant for school-based mental health.
Move to adopt.
I second.
So, Director McElroy, did you move?
I moved to adopt.
Okay.
Got it.
Director Bonbright, second. That was for Tracy, for
Sorry,
our
Tracy.
minutes.
Thank you.
To help Tracy out a little bit there. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments on this one?
Yeah,
So I just, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, these are the 4 that you were talking about, I'm assuming, Deputy Superintendent. And I just want to say how much I appreciate this, and thank you to the team who reached out and got the grant from the federal government to make this possible. And pretty exciting that 2,500 students got the counseling that they needed, which was otherwise unavailable to them. And I think this is a move in the right direction. I really appreciate you guys.
I just want to give a couple shout outs to obviously Laura Allen and Deputy Superintendent Lisa Nolan and Courtney Leach. Courtney works in our grants office. These grants are a massive project. Rosalind Medina, we have to build a business plan for each of these things. There is no one in our community that coordinates all these partners together to come in. Malik and the legal team, who has to write all the agreements so they can come in, so they can do it safely in that space. All of our principals and all of our staff that saved a spot for them to come in. The transportation department, who has to help with the runs. So I just huge shout out. And once again, I'll point it back to you, because a couple of years ago, you continued to have work studies around mental health and asked what was our plans and how would we build plans. And then you set a goal to build sustainable funding when the state would not provide sustainable funding. And that's what we've been doing for the last few years. So thank you for your leadership in this area. You can see the impact is massive.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments.
And the work is not over.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes. Now to item 15.5, approval of addendum to the contractual memorandum of understanding between Tacoma School District and the City of Tacoma from April 2024 through December 2025.
Longer walk than I'm used to.
We're all getting used to it, Tony.
The Assistant Superintendent of K-12 Support, on behalf of the Director of Innovation Learning and CTE, recommends that the Board of Directors approve the addendum to the contractual memorandum of understanding between Tacoma Public Schools and the City of Tacoma, April 30th, 2024 to December 31st, 2025. Funding sources, CTE to COT.
I move item 15.5.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. I'll speak slower next time. Item 15.6. Oh, I see Chris coming.
He's running.
Approval to negotiate and award design build alternative method contract with Americasco. How do you say that?
Amorisco.
Thank you. Amorisco for the McKinley HVAC upgrades project.
The Chief Operating Officer recommends that the Board of Directors approve the Superintendent to negotiate and award a contract to Amorisco for the design build alternative method for the McKinley HVAC upgrade project.
I move item 15.6.
It's been moved and seconded. I do have a question. Just out of curiosity, this made me wonder about how many other HVAC upgrades that we've done so far over the time because I know that it initially was something that we did with ESSER funding to improve the air quality and also help folks in our buildings, students and families and staff feel safer. It made me wonder, I've lost track of how many we've already done.
We touched basically every school. This is additional work. Obviously, McKinley is a swing site, which we're going to utilize for many years, especially passing the 2024 bond.
Chris, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. I think is it approximately $30 million over those years?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can see the impact. And that was one of the things that you provided and coming out of COVID. Obviously, we had ESSER dollars, and there were certain categories we had to spend those dollars. Learning loss, improving infrastructure, quality of air, and that was one of the pieces that you prioritized. And so we're on the tail end of spending that in addition to all these things. So Chris and the team, Morris, Aldridge, Alicia, the whole team over there has done a phenomenal job. Sheree with purchasing, a variety of folks, Trang making sure that the contracts are all right and going. So thank you to all that team, and thank you for pointing out the magnitude of that volume of work.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? All right. Seeing no other comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Did I miss something? All right. Item number 16, other business. 16.1, adoption of resolution number 2142, authorization to negotiate with and sell to Lotus Rudolph Homes for the purchase of the Madison Early Learning Center property located at 3101 South 43rd Street.
I move item 16.1.
Second. All right, we'll do a roll call vote on this resolution. I know you didn't get the chance. It's all right. We'll do a roll call vote on agenda item 16.1. President Keating, how do you vote on resolution 2142?
Do we
Oh, wait.
want to answer
but-
any questions?
Oh,
Yeah.
I did.
I just
Yeah.
want to make sure the board.
My apologies.
It's the end of the school year, in case you
It
didn't
is
know.
very much the end of the
Very
school
much
year.
He wants to get it done.
Yeah. Are there any questions or comments?
Comment? It's about negotiating the sale for Madison.
Yeah.
Bet. All right. My grandmother spent 39 years in this district, and one of the schools that she served at was Madison. It is integral to the South Tacoma neighborhood. As the former chair of the South Tacoma Neighborhood Council, it was really imperative to the community that we invested time in giving back and cleaning up. And it was really insightful to the community when we partnered with the Tacoma Tree Foundation from the school district standpoint and planted trees there. I think that the impact is not lost on us, that sometimes we can't afford to keep things that we really love. And when you can't afford to keep things that you really love, sometimes you don't have a say in what happens after you let it go. However, as someone who lives in South Tacoma, or lived in South Tacoma when I was serving as chair, I lived walking distance from there, right on 47th and Warner Street. I could walk to Madison, I could touch it, I could smell it, and the kids in that neighborhood do not have ample play space. However, the playground at Madison was preschool specific, so those K-5 students and those middle schoolers who like to hang out at parks did not really utilize that playground either. So this is going to be a problem for someone else, but also I really do hope that Metro Parks makes a plan for the South Tacoma neighborhood area, especially the area by the mall, because the parks is not my department. This is the department I serve in, but just as someone who lived there and someone who advocated for South Tacoma for a long time, it is not lost on me.
Thank you, Director. Any other comments? Yes, Director Leon.
Yeah, I think there are other organizations that have had a chance to, look at that space, and there's one organization now that wants to buy it. There's still going to be some negotiation around this. We've heard from the public, and we know that there's concerns around green space and open space and park space, which are really important. And as we've heard, we have a budget issue, and we may or may, we have spaces other places that we can grow into, but this is the right decision that's being made by the superintendent's office. It's been analyzed well, even though it's difficult for the people in that community. There are other spaces. Are they ideal? Maybe they're not their ideal at this point, but you're right, not everything is within our control as a school board. Para la comunidad que está ahí en East Side, en East o cerca de la mall, es muy difícil, no vamos a tener tanto espacio para los árboles ahí cuando no tenemos este sitio, pero las organizaciones y las decisiones del Departamento de Parques es algo que ellos van a hacer, y también la ciudad, cuando los nuevos dueños construyen algo, va a ser algo más bonito y más ideal para la comunidad. Pero no tenemos control nosotros en eso.
Thank you.
And prior to you making a decision, there are some things that I've heard in the community that I want to just, the city does have requirements for trees and landscape that will bring, and there's an opportunity to maintain, possibly even create more spaces. They have some requirements in their ordinances for green spaces. I've also heard in the community is this, and just for the clarity, is we're not selling the transportation system this time, the transportation property in there. And so although other government agencies have said to us, this is not the right time for us, doesn't mean that there won't be opportunities in the future to continue to invest in that space. And then I know there was one request, at least tonight, to speak. I will ask Mr. Williams and we'll contact Ms. Bone if she's willing to allow us to share her information. We will share her information to make sure that if we do reach an agreement, that this potential investor has that opportunity to hear some of those insights as well.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? All right. Seeing none, I will pass it over to General Counsel Benro.
President Keating, how do you vote on Resolution 2142?
Aye.
Vice President Stroger, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Leon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Bombright, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director McElroy, how do you vote?
Aye.
So Resolution 2142 passes.
Thank you, Chris.
5-0.
Moving on to item 16.2, approval of Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, WIAA for short, membership renewal and school board resolution for the 2024-2025 school year.
The Assistant Superintendent of K-12 Support, on behalf of the Director of Athletics and Activities, recommends that the Board of Directors approve the renewal of the membership between WIAA and Tacoma Public Schools from September 2024 to August 2025. Funding source, athletics and activities.
Move to adopt item 16.2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? No? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Item 16.4, ratification of the 2024 through 2027 collective bargaining agreement between Tacoma School District Number 10 and the membership of the Western States Regional Council of Carpenters.
I think we're at 6 point. I'm going to swap.
Oh, did I do it? I'm sorry,
Yeah, it's
everybody.
okay. No worries.
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and start.
Would you like me to go back to 16.3?
Yep.
Yep.
That'd be great.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. Item 16.3, ratification of the 2024 through 2027 collective bargaining agreement between Tacoma School District Number 10 and the membership of the Tacoma Federation of Education Support Professionals, AFT Washington Local 461, AFL-CIO.
Thank you. The Director of Labor Relations and Whole Executive Support, on behalf of the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, recommends that the Board of Directors ratify the collective bargaining agreement between Tacoma Public Schools District Number 10 and the membership of the Tacoma Federation of Education Support Professionals, AFT Washington Local 461, AFL-CO.
I move item 16.3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I pass it over to General Counsel Benro.
We could do a roll call vote. President Keating, how do you vote on the ratification of the CBA between the district and AFT Local 461?
Aye.
Vice President Stroger, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Bombright, how do you vote?
Oh, aye.
Director McElroy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Leon, how do you vote?
Aye.
The CBA is ratified. Oh, I did. Apologies.
All right.
Oh, no, you were just seeing if we were awake.
All right, thank you. Now, item 16.4, ratification of the 2024 through 2027 collective bargaining agreement between Tacoma School District Number 10 and the membership of the Western States Regional Council of Carpenters.
The Director of Labor Relations and Educator Support, on behalf of the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, recommends that the Board of Directors ratify the collective bargaining agreement between Tacoma School District Number 10 and the membership of the Western States Regional Council of Carpenters.
I move item 16.4.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments?
I just want to, on both this one, thank you very much to our partners. You do make a difference for us. And I also want to just give a special shout out to our ESP partners. Forrest's leadership in helping us find respectful ways to keep on working together. So thank you. And thank you to all of our ESP partners out there. Thank you, Forrest.
Thank you.
No, question? What?
No.
Why are you pointing?
I was
Oh my God.
confused. I was like,
Y'all, I
I'm
got
sorry.
this. I promise.
I'm
I
lost.
promise.
Bringing it home.
I know, we're so close. All right, well, seeing no other questions or comments, General Counsel, will you please call the roll?
Yeah. President Keating, how do you vote on the ratification of the CBA between the Tacoma School District and the membership of the Western States Regional Council of Carpenters?
Aye.
Vice President Strozier, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Leon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Bombright, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director McClure, how do you vote?
Aye.
The CBA is ratified.
Thank you.
Thank you, Forrest.
Well done, team.
I mean, I don't know if it was well done, but we got there.
We made it to the end.
I was actually.
I was referring to tonight. All right, item number 17, board comments and report.
I got fun stuff. Okay, so I wasn't gonna say nothing during Juneteenth, but I really did feel moved to just thank you, and I will thank you both again. Thank you, President Keating. Thank you, Vice President Strozier. There's a lot, like heavy is the head that wears the crown. I do not envy your positions, but I want to thank you for your fearless and tireless leadership. So it's Juneteenth month, even though Juneteenth is just a day, it's a month. I think the way that some of us are raised, we grew up celebrating it. We understood like the cultural significance. My grandmother had like this African American encyclopedia that my mom now has that will be passed to me because I already wrote it, like this is for me. It's 17 books. They're very, very thick, and they talk about the history of Black and American people in the Americas. And so during Juneteenth month, there are a lot of celebrations. So you can celebrate at home by Googling what it means, like Vice President Strozier said. But there are some unsung heroes in our community, like one of our school counselors, Ms. Thompson. She was a school counselor at TOL, and now she's a school counselor somewhere else. I'm not gonna say because it's public. But she single-handedly created a community-involved TPS focused Juneteenth event, a citywide event. Last year it was hosted here at the PDC, and this year it will be hosted at Evergreen Tacoma, another partnership that she secured through our Director of Partnership, Amanda Scott Thomas. So thank them both for the work that they do. And their event will be on Tuesday, June 11th at 4 p.m. This Sunday coming up, on Sunday, June 9th, the Juneteenth Youth Market hosted by the Big Homie Project, which are one of the partners of Metro Parks that does violence intervention work throughout Metro Parks, and I think they've partnered in late nights in the past. On Sunday, they do a youth market where like their students who've been involved in program get together and they sell items. They learn about small business and what it means to be that Black entrepreneurial spirit. So that'll be at the Eastside Community Center. On the actual day, Juneteenth, Way Out Kids, one of our community partners, also partnered with Green Trikes, Metro Parks, and a bunch of other people. Way Out Kids has been hosting, this will be the second annual Juneteenth Road to Economic Freedom Festival at Stewart Heights Park. That's from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. On the Saturday after Juneteenth, will be, on the Saturday and Sunday, the Bite of Black Business is hosting Juneteenth celebrations / the kickoff to summer season and Black festivals, and how we want to celebrate ourselves in the city of Tacoma. Saturday and Sunday, June 22nd, and Sunday, June 23rd, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Can I ask?
Yes, girl. I be
You're
talking
going
real fast.
So on the Eastside Community Center Juneteenth event, what was the time?
Sunday, June 9th, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Like you said, it was on the actual day.
No, June 19th is the Stewart Heights event.
So confused.
I know,
Okay,
there's
I'll go
so
over it with
many
you later.
events. And I just try to prattle them off because at the end of the day, they're on Facebook. You can Google them. And if you really want to go celebrate Juneteenth, you'll say Juneteenth Tacoma, put it in Google, and a bunch of stuff is going to pop up. I know because I did that last year. Terrifying amounts of things came. And I was like, okay, I cannot go to 75 events. I'm one person, but I'll do my best to try to be in spaces that welcome, embrace my culture, and celebrate who I am. I
have a quick question.
Go ahead, girl.
About the Stewart Heights one. Is the pageant going to happen again this year?
Yes.
At the same day?
Yes, the community aunties are hosting the second annual Juneteenth pageant. Juneteenth pageant used to be a big deal in the city of Tacoma back in like the 80s or something like that. I'm not aging anybody but myself and my mother. My mother told me about it when the one that happened last year. I was like, oh my God, this is the first ever. And she said, actually, it's not. Learn your history, learn more about your city. So I did. I Googled it, and I learned a lot more. So there's a lot of people getting together to put on events in the city to celebrate and uplift Black youth, Black culture, and talk about what Juneteenth is. The speakers, all very interesting, but the one at Stewart Heights has a bunch of like performing artists. I'm not going to lean into that. But what I will lean into, taking a moment to apologize for interrupting board protocol and requesting additional time. I know that I did something that I really shouldn't have done. I know that going forward, people are going to be like, you did it for this one lady. Why did you do it for me? So let me tell you why. My culture, I was born and raised into a matriarchal society. Black women raised me to support and respect my elders. And I felt that the speaker was so moved by what was happening in the room that she lost track of her own point. And it wouldn't be fair to not let her have her own point, as she wanted to just commemorate and celebrate and talk about the history of herself in this moment, past, present, all coming together. So if you come to a meeting, you're like, Director McElroy did it one time for somebody else. Director McElroy is not gonna do it again, even for an elder, because I know it'll come back to bite me. So I'm gonna say that now, because somebody's gonna record this and say she did it and she ain't gonna do it again. That's point number one. Point number two, I do appreciate the calls and the calls to reflect and evaluate and focus in on our work. And I want to read something that I did share publicly, and then this is also something that I reply to a lot of emails with, because I think it is really helpful information for people who say that the board is inaccessible. I think that we watch national news of what school boards are and what they aren't, and we apply that to ourselves, even if it is not rooted in reality or fact. Because a lot of people in this district, including a lot of people who are in the room tonight, have my personal phone number, know where to find me 3 nights out of the week. Also, a bunch of people in this room have my personal address, which is terrifying, because once you're elected, lots of people know where you live and they send you lots of stuff. So I'm gonna just say that right there. But what I will say is that I asked people who came to me and said, it's not fair because I don't know how to get involved. In 2020, I felt powerless with no understanding of the infrastructure and how the city operates, and I felt so isolated from systems and institutions that were imposing themselves upon me. I had to find out a lot of things on my own without a network of influential or knowledgeable people. Now, this is an email that I send to a lot of people, so I'm reading you something that I've sent. Here are some ways that you can get involved in our district. Learn about the Equity Policy Review Team. If you cannot join it, read our policies. If you have an issue or concern about those policies, please email the board at board@tacoma.k12.wa.us. Attend a board meeting. Board meetings are an excellent place to see policy decisions in real time. Our meetings are also live streamed and available on YouTube. Even though we do not translate ourselves, there are YouTube caption options that translate our meetings into a bunch of different languages, and I've seen it in action in real time with folks who said, I want to know more. We did it together. I had no idea what I was doing on those captions, but it did help somebody learn something about our district. Be aware that board members cannot respond during or after your testimony per policy 1430, which you can find here. I typically leave lots of links in my replies to emails. Another way to get involved in our district is to start a PTA or booster club at your school. These groups help you elevate student and family voice and create a space to learn about how the district operates in partnership with your school community. Join a safety committee at your school. Contact your board rep. You may not know this, but in Tacoma, we rotate positions every year to ensure that all board members serve every student, every side of town, every demographic, every single day. Check out the website to discover who your board rep is and email them to request a meeting. However, A huge disclaimer. On meeting with your board rep, we are essentially a volunteer board who makes $4,800 annually to serve. That is capped by law. Due to the lack of funding for schools and boards, most board directors in Washington State work to sustain their households, so they may not be available immediately, but give us time. We have all found ways to accommodate and meet with many folks. Huge disclaimer. I have 2 full-time jobs just so I can come to these meetings because I did not realize how much money it takes to be an elected official. And I have to work doubly as hard because I don't have the degrees and I don't have all that support. It's just me by myself, just so I can sit here. So I do make time to meet with people. I go out of my way. I'm very public facing and I always welcome you. Email me, ask me for a time to meet. Now, if I make you wait 2 weeks, don't get mad because I have to work because I got to pay rent. Those are my board comments.
Thank you, Director McElroy.
They were fun and long.
Who would like to follow that?
I'm willing to go next.
Go ahead.
Okay, now for the fun part. This is what I like to do, especially this time of year, as y'all know how I feel about graduations. But because I don't want anybody to get it twisted when it comes to me, in honor of Men's Mental Health Month, in honor of the month of Juneteenth, I got to talk my talk for a second. So I'm appreciative of everybody who comes to speak, especially our students who stand up and get behind that podium. So I want to be intentional about acknowledging presence because it's important. I have to say that perspective is everything and everybody has a right to their own. And what I want to say about everything is simple. Yes, I've been elected to serve in this role. Yes, I work on behalf of community. I'm always willing to find the time to connect. When you have to work a full-time job and also be a elected official, you have to find time, and I'm willing to always do that. But you do not get to tell me how I engage with community, when I engage with community, or how to do this work. I'm not big on lip wrestling. I'm not big on going back and forth with people, but the narrative that folks don't care, or we're a part of some secret society where we're making decisions that only benefit us is tired and is played out. And since we're putting out stats, let me put a stat out there for folks. It's likely that in the month of May, I spent more time doing board business, in conversation about board business, than I spent in conversation with my own kids. And I spent a lot of time in conversation with my kids, since we're putting out stats. I'm not saying that I don't engage with my babies, but when this work calls, I answer, because that's what I've been elected to do. This is a labor of love for me, and the power of education itself is weaved into the essence of my being, just in case you don't know. The biggest form of payment for me in this work is graduation season. And yes, we are educating, and yes, we are graduating, and I'm not gonna stand here and weaponize phrases, and I would appreciate it if folks didn't do that moving forward either. Shout out to all of our graduates that worked hard to get to this point. Shout out to all of our graduates that did the work to prepare for where they're going next. Shout out to all of the young people that are still gonna be working past graduation date to meet some requirements, because we don't give up on young people. I see you, I'm proud of you, and it's no doubt in my mind that you are ready for what's next. I'll cap my comments there. Graduation start tomorrow. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna turn up and celebrate the young people the way they deserve to be celebrated without the device of foolishness. Thank you.
I'll let, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Again, thanks for all your comments. And I know that there's a lot of emotion around decisions that are made when positions are not going to be continued. But as we've mentioned multiple times, that we have reviewed and seen and discussed what the safety plan is, or maybe not safety plan, what the plan has been to get these kids through to the next phase and the Vannies and the next stage. And there is a plan for every school. It might be a little different, and it might be a little bit different coming forward at that same school, but that's something that's really important for everyone in this whole organization. So, but it's an emotional moment to have a position change, we understand. And I want to celebrate and just congratulate all the graduates and all the promotions. We've talked about this. This is an amazing time of the year. But it's all about learning, and it's, I've been to several celebration end-of-year events, concerts, awards, plays, and it's just a beautiful thing to see the kids light up when they do amazing things and finish amazing projects, and all their teachers and family around them. Thank you for all the staff that makes that happen.
Yeah. Well, we've got a couple of themes going here tonight in our comments, and I'll start with our role as board members, and we are representatives of communities. So when people say that we don't talk to community, we are community. We represent. As a matter of fact, if you look at this board, you couldn't find 5 more different people. We represent different pieces of our community, and every single day we're talking out in community, not just people that write us or that call us, but like my colleagues, if someone calls me, I make the time, I talk to them, I follow up with the superintendent if necessary on issues if I don't know the answer, and he has staff work with these individuals. We get stuff done. It feels really. I understand people are passionate about this, but it seems disrespectful is probably the best word. When people accusatorily, imply or state that we aren't talking to community or we don't care about community input. That's all we care about, really, is the kids and the parents and the families and the staff that make things happen. And I just wish people would, think a little bit more and learn a little bit more about what we do before making statements that imply, our purpose and our objectives and what our mission is. So that one, I just want to get that out. The second thing I think I want to say is that this is a very stressful time for people. May and June are exciting for students. They're exciting for families. Summer's coming, people are graduating, kids at all levels are moving up a grade, sometimes moving to the next stage, whether it's elementary to middle and middle to high. And so it's not just our high school graduates. There's progress and joy and enthusiasm and growth at every single level for every student in our system. And that takes a village. And that village is the teachers, it's the custodians, it's the nutrition staff, it's the nurses, it's the counselors. The list is so long, I probably shouldn't have started it because I'm going to forget bus drivers, it's the carpenters, it's it goes on and on and on. The TPS staff, the 5,000 staff that make our school system run. And they're going through a stressful time. They're trying to finish out the school year, and then maybe their position is being altered or they're being displaced, and they're personally focused on multiple things like the rest of us are. And so I just want to acknowledge that it gets emotional, but know that we here, all 5 of us, and I'm going to speak for you all because I think you'll agree with me, that we are committed to everyone getting their needs met as best as we possibly can so that they can better serve and best serve our students. And then the last thing I want to say is the celebration of our high school grads, because that is, as Director Strozier says, really kind of a highlight to be up there on the stage and be the ones who actually officially graduate these students. And it's incredibly joyful to watch the faces and see the proud parents and to have these kids really be moving forward to the next step. And so I want to thank everyone who makes that possible, because graduations are a huge lift. The physical happening of a graduation. And so I want to thank in advance the TPS staff that make those happen. And some of those people are right here in the room making this happen. So I just want to thank our staff and our group, the tech staff, and everybody that makes that so everyone can watch. But I also, I want to thank the kids. I can thank the students for sticking with it, asking for things that they need, and then pushing through their own anxieties to get to this place. It's been a tough 4 years. This is a group that actually was COVID impacted, and they struggled like everyone else. So those are my comments tonight. Next week is going to be super exciting. We start tomorrow morning, right here at 10 a.m., right? For CBT. So exciting. And then I know I'm doing Willie Stewart on Monday or Tuesday, and then we're
Tuesday, 5 o'clock.
we got a whole week of graduations, and so thanks to everyone for making that happen.
Yeah. Thank you. We've been here a long time.
Yep.
I
have.
will do my best to make it quick. And I just also want to thank everyone's comments tonight. They were very impactful for me, so I really appreciate your vulnerability and honesty and willingness to try and clarify a narrative that is that some are saying about the five of us and what we do and what we don't do. To Vice President Strozier's point about the hours spent, I have worked more than a full-time job since just the last board meeting on the very issues that people have come to speak to us about. I have been in community meeting and speaking with people. Some people I know, some people I don't know. I actually met with Miss Beverly on Monday to talk about her concerns and to try and address confusion and questions. And, I don't always have the answer. And I actually said I would direct staff to her, right? When we don't have the answer, we direct staff to help people get the answer or information that they need or the support that they need. And like Director Bondwright, I am also in my 5th year in this role, and there has never been a time that I have said to the superintendent, to any staff member, our previous superintendent, would you please reach out and support this family, this student, this community member? No one has ever told me no. And then they've always followed up and reported back to us. Now, maybe they didn't give the information or the decisions or the results that the person wanted. We always can't do that. Those of us raising kids, we know we can't tell our kids, they don't always get the things they want, right? And so I just want to acknowledge that we take these roles individually and collectively very seriously. And we live by the commitments that we make for the reasons that we all chose to ask the voters to allow us this privilege to serve up here. So I'm going to just wrap a little bit with some things about what I've done outside of what I've already listed. I had the really fun opportunity to mentor a group of 5th grade boys at Wainwright for their IB project. I know they wished it would have ended 2 weeks in. They were very ready to be finished, particularly by today. And today I got to see their presentations and the group, there were a number of different groups that chose the same or similar topics. And these 4 boys chose child trafficking. And they took the topic seriously. And I met with them last Friday for their last mentor group, and they were very much like trying to herd jellyfish. They had no interest in doing any of this, but they'd rather sit with me than me take them back to class. So, which I gave them that choice. We created a plan. I wrote out a plan for them for how they were going to present, and today, they took that note that I wrote for them and it was taped to their table with their presentation. And then they didn't have anybody come into them, and it was a gym and it was loud. Oh my God, I don't know how anyone could think straight. The energy, by the way, you could feel school. They want school to be over. That energy is high. And I know that's not just at Wainwright. And so these 4 boys did such an amazing job, pushing through, learning how to communicate together, learning how to express frustrations with one another, figuring out how do you do a collective project? How do you work as a team? The things that they learned were far greater than the important information of the subject that they were studying. And it was really incredible to watch that and be a part of that. The great Justina Johnson was also there because she had a group who did the same topic. And so we chatted a little bit, and she went over and she asked my group to present. And she came back, she's like, they popped straight up. They went through their presentation. They had actually improved the process, and they told me afterwards, they're like, Ms. Keating, so we were doing it this way, but it wasn't really working. And so this is what we changed in the middle of it, like in the middle of this whole presentation. And so I just, to Director Bombright's comments about thanking our students, like, yes, we should be thanking all of our students who are working really hard to do things that they often don't even want to be doing. And they are supposed to do it anyways. And we sometimes expect them to be happy about it, maybe even smile. And I see Zeke in the back laughing about that because they're not always happy about it, but it was a really cool experience. And this is an age group that I worked with for, well over 8 years. And so I really felt like I was in my element. And I just want to give all the staff there and all of the other mentors, there were mentors from all over that came and volunteered with these students. And so it was a really great culmination of a huge collection of people to try and help our students, help our students succeed in a lot of different ways that we don't always collect data on. And I think that's important to acknowledge and recognize. I do want to say that Congressman Strickland was at Larchmont on May 28th, and I got to be there. And she and I got to hang out in a Head Start classroom. Don't be jealous, both of you.
Yeah,
I know.
oh, man.
It was amazing, and she was forced away because all she wanted to do was color with these kids. And it was a beautiful experience to share with Congresswoman Strickland, and also for her to be able to share the things that she's been able to do through her office in Congress and the things that she's prioritizing, advocating for back in the community that she serves. And we get to benefit greatly from her leadership. And then there were other things. I had the WASDA Federal Relations Network Committee that I ran. I think that was last week. And I also attended the Urban League State of Black Tacoma, which is a very powerful, informative event that I try not to miss. And I was really grateful to have been there again this year. Yesterday was the Traffic and Safety Committee meeting, and I want to give one shout out to Jimmy Gear. Did I say that right? Okay. Kaylin Henley from Safe Routes to Schools with the City of Tacoma shared with us that Jimmy Greer was being the amount of effort because of his leadership and work, it led to the walking school buses. And that OSPI had a video or has a video that they're sharing on their platforms about our walking school buses and Tacoma and Jimmy's work affiliated with this. So I just wanted to give Jimmy a shout out for that and the impact that Jimmy's had on our students in that way. And then I do want to say regarding, I know last meeting we had voted on to join a lawsuit as a oh my God, my words are escaping me, Malik.
Non-party declaration. We are not joining a lawsuit. We are
Thank you.
submitting
Thank you
a
for correcting us.
non-party
Thank you.
declaration.
I'm tired.
It's
Thank you
okay.
for that clarification. So we did not join, but we did submit. Malik's like,
Yes.
we're down hives in a
A
hot minute.
non-party declaration. You're doing great. You're doing great.
But I just wanted to say, share that there was a hearing on Tuesday seeking a temporary restraining order, and that was not granted. And so there will be a second hearing on June 21st.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then was it yesterday? the state superintendent's office.
Yes.
Was that just yesterday too?
That was yesterday.
Oh my God. Had provided guidance around the parental rights initiative, this parental rights initiative that is now enacted as of today, and that and recommended that districts do not comply with any law that conflicts with any other existing law within within 2081. Did I say that right, Malik?
Yeah, in particular saying where the state and federal law conflict, that school districts in Washington should follow the federal law until OSBI has the time to issue technical assistance clarifying how school districts should comply with the state law.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted, because this is something we've talked about several times over the last multiple months, I just wanted to bring that forward. And I think with that, I'm ready to read item number 18. Announcements of next regular board meetings, June 20th, 2024. 6 p.m. here will be our next business meeting. And then July 11th, 2024, 6 p.m. will be another business meeting. And then again, August 22nd, 2024, 6 p.m. Business meeting, all here in this location. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. You're welcome.
Take the